Okay, so what is the fix for the tail that I keep talking about and have been keeping you all in suspense for, I hope, to fix this problem? Well, we're going to change this tail from leading edge control to trailing edge control. And what that's going to do now is, even at center slider, okay, by the way, something I didn't bring up was, when you do center, get the slider center, so you, at 10 millimeter ball position, the slider has to be completely center. Watch my stock setup videos and I'll show you how to find center slider by using pen marks on the rod. Alright, and you will be able to set up that gyro so you don't bind in both directions with the slider center. Forget about what the arm's doing. But at center slider, our arm's still not 90. I don't care about that. You know what? It's close enough now to where we're getting good enough linear movement that if you want to set up heading hold only and not set up rate, don't worry about this 90 business. All right, all right. To get rate mode, I can actually get you close to 90, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, the way to fix this problem with the fact that the pitch is the wrong way, even at center slider, forgetting the arm, even at center slider, the pitch is the wrong way. What we're going to do is we're going to change these grips to trailing edge control. The way you do that is, right now, this plastic piece has this riser on it, or this hump on it, going to leading edge control. In order to do that, we're going to take this screw out here, we're going to take this screw out here, and we're going to flip this plastic piece so this hump or riser is over on this side. Then we're going to rotate the grip and bring it trailing edge control. That's the only way you can flip these grips and get trailing edge control, because this riser controls the pitch slider arm is in the center of the hub. This riser compensates for the fact that this arm on the grip is short. All right, if the arm on the grip was longer, you could just have a little plastic piece here that was center. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back, I'm going to remove this screw, I'm going to flip this plastic piece, flip the grips around. Now when I do that, I also have to take the blades off and flip them around. I'll come back and talk to that and then show the final thing. Okay, just to show you, this is pretty easy. What I've done is I removed the 2 large black screws and the 2 silver screws, and these little plastic pieces, and the brass sleeves are inside. So what we're going to do now is, the manual normally shows it in this way, and we're going to flip it this way, and we're going to put the silver screws back on. We're going to rotate the pitch slider and do the same on the other side. So let's continue on. Okay, so there we go. What we've done now is we've flipped these plastic pieces, all right, and now we can rotate our grip and put the black screws in. Don't worry, I haven't changed the blades yet. Actually, I'm going to go a little wide here now. I haven't changed the blades yet, and so don't worry about that, but now we're going to put our black screws back in. Don't forget the Loctite, and we will now have trailing edge control, and then I'll come back and show you the final tail. Okay, there we go. We've got the grips flipped. Now, what you'll see is that I haven't reversed the blades yet. And oh, by the way, yes, the screws that hold the blades in are now coming in from the inside rather than the outside. Okay, so realize that. But if you look, you know, we rotate the head in the proper direction. All right, our trailing edge is coming into the downwash of the main rotor, which means we now have to flip the tail blades. So let me do that, and we'll see the final tail adjustment and why it works. Okay, so there we go, and actually I'm not going to go into why it works yet, but there we go. We've got the plastic flipped. We're now, our grips are on related to the trailing edge of the blade. Let me show you that by tipping it. Trailing edge of the blade, all right? But we had to reverse everything, so make sure when you rotate the head, the leading edge of the blade is coming up into the downwash of the main rotor, okay? But as you can clearly see, unlike the regular design, we now have trailing edge control. All right, so the ball location or the pivot location is related to the trailing edge of the blades, but we're still getting the rotation properly and the control properly. All right, now I'm going to go do a next video on why this actually, geometry-wise, is better. Okay, so why is this better? Well, I took you through what other helicopters look like, the fact that setting up rate mode with the stock design had this arm so far from 90 it wasn't even funny, even though our slider was off, which is okay. All right, we've got a gyro that allows different ends. But let me show you something. When I put the arm at 90 now, all right, and let me show you this. When I put the arm at 90 now with the control rod, you see that? It's 90 with the control rod. Check it out. All right? We now have the leading edge pushing the tail against torque. That right off the bat is what I consider a proper setup. Now, for you guys that don't care about rate, even if we center the slider, yes, the arm is a little bit off 90, just a little bit. Okay, it's just a little bit on center. Look at my mark. Remember my tail marks? I haven't changed anything. Look, see, the mark's still there. The mark's still there. Just because I flipped the grips does not change the full tail slider position, okay? Again, watch my stock setup for what these pen marks do, but I rotate the blades, slider bottoms out, pen mark. Slider bottoms out, pen mark. Let's go center, like the Align manual says. Yes, our arm's not quite 90, but check this out. Okay, there's still a little bit of pitch toward the proper direction. Actually, let me double check that. Yes, just a little bit. It's still not right. So for you rate mode guys that now want to set up rate mode, yes, your slider's going to be a little bit offset, all right? But you've got the right amount of pitch, and it's not near as offset. Not near as offset as the other direction. And your arm is going to be 90, folks. It's going to be 90. This, for rate mode, guys, is going to be the proper way to make this tail work. I've tested it. We've tested rate mode setup, etc. Now, there's one other modification, because if you offset this slider even a little with the ball at 10 millimeter, you will still bind. You cannot get the limit setting on the gyro any lower. So if you're going to set up and hover in rate mode, you're going to wind up with about X amount of pitch. All right? Your slider's not quite center, and you will still bind. But I'm going to tell you how to do it without getting binding. And that is, take this arm right here, all right, which is the extra short arm you got in the kit. And if you look where it says DS4, right in the center of the S, where the S comes together, drill a hole. That's going to be 8 millimeter, not 10, 8 millimeter. Use this arm on your servo, put a ball at 8 millimeter. This will reduce the amount of throw and allow you to set up true rate mode and not have it bind, all right? I'm not going to go through gyro setup again. Again, go see my segment on stock setup. But if you do the 8 millimeter ball position and do this modification, you will be able to set up rate mode without binding. All right? So that finishes my segment on my modification to the tail. For personally, I would do this modification whether you're going to set up rate or not. This modification makes linear throws, 90, 90, center, whatever, you're done. All right? Geometrically speaking, it is a lot better than what we had before. So for you heading hold only guys, I still recommend making this mod. For you rate mode guys that absolutely want to set up rate mode, I recommend going to an 8 millimeter ball position. Then you can offset this slider a little bit to get the rate mode setup you want, and you'll still be able to get the gyro low enough for not binding, okay? So that is a tip. For you guys only doing heading hold, I still recommend doing the grip flip. You can keep your 10 millimeter position. You're going to center the slider like my stock setup videos, and you will not bind in both directions. All right? So that is my thing. That's my change to this tail. And now I'm going to just show you a quick video on Kevin testing it to show that A, there's no ill effects, and B, I mean, honestly, because he doesn't set up rate mode, he couldn't tell the difference. So it wasn't that much different, but there's no ill effects. Both he and I agree this is the more proper tail setup, geometrically speaking. For you rate guys, this is a must do. All right? There you go. Hope this was helpful. Watch my next segment that shows the flying. and enjoy. By the way, real quick, if you make this mod to the tail and flip the grips, you're going to have to make 2 changes over my stock setup. One is the rudder won't move in the right direction now because we flipped the grips. It moves a different direction. So you're going to go back into servo reversing on the rudder and put it back so that your rudder stick moves the right direction. So I had to go back into reversing and change the rudder back to the original setting in the radio. Second is if you sub-trimmed your servo, you're going to have to go back and change that from a left to a right or whatever you had, because now the sub-trim is going to be reversed because you reversed the servo back. Thirdly, you got to go into gyro setup again and change your gyro correction direction, because it will be backwards. If you don't do that, when you go into pick it up in the hover, it's just going to spin madly. So you need to re-reverse rudder, change your gyro correction direction, and if you use sub-trim, fix that too. Okay, wanted to make sure you understood that so that you made this change, and if you didn't make any other changes to the gyro, you're going to have problems, all right? So just to finish that up.